I'm going to do a detailed breakdown on round number 2 of Erceg versus Osbourne to see if the decision was the right decision. So we're going to break this down. I have every single striking exchange, grappling exchange of any sort of meaningful significance chopped up in round 2 right here. So how this is going to work, we're going to watch the clip in its entirety before we start breaking it down. And I'm going to put a number next to them when I think that they had done enough to win that striking exchange. And that's how we're going to keep score. That's how we're going to keep tally. All right, let's just get into it. The first exchange right here.
Osbourne.
A teep that got parried off by Erceg. Right hand coming down the middle. It connects. It snaps Ode's head back. So that's a significant strike. And moving on now. What we just witnessed were two oblique kicks, but the first oblique kick was more of a range finding kick. This is something that Max Holloway does a lot, especially in the last couple fights that he's been doing. See how it lands to the upper part of the thigh? That's more of a range finding attack. Think of it like a jab. This is the damaging oblique kick right here. See how Steve Erceg reacts? Strikes right on the knee, bit of a hyperextension, and then some gingerly steps right after the attack. So that striking exchange that we just watched, so right there we see a hook just barely misses. And then we have a counter hook from Erceg, barely misses as well. So in that exchange, there's also, if you can see right here, it looks like Ode is launching a hook of his own, but this hits the shoulder. And there was some impact behind that hit because watch the reaction from Steve Erceg. It moves him. It physically moves him back. None of these attacks are of any sort of significance, so we're just going to ignore this exchange here.
Ode Osbourne. Maç ilerledikçe bu Steve
And we got two strikes that were parried, two jabs from Steve Erceg, parried by Ode Osbourne. Nothing of note here. There's something to be said about this right here is very significant for Steve Erceg because this a great adjustment that he's been using. He was struggling with the check hook on his entrance. So his adjustment right here, he starts pawing at the lead hand of Ode Osbourne. And that quite effectively takes away check hook from Ode Osbourne, at least diminishes its effectiveness.
dedim.
Okay, so we got some feinting, but look what we have. Erceg, he's also trapping the lead hand of Ode still. And then he launches his two, which gets parried by the rear hand of Ode, and he slips on the outside of it. We're continuing on with 1-1. I believe this is where we start to see grappling from Steve Erceg. Right there, he shoots for a single leg and is defended beautifully by Ode Osbourne. I was going to take into account some effective grappling, but that's only if the effective striking is so even. And right now, it's even, but we'll come back to that later. Right there, we have Steve Erceg breaking the grip of Ode Osbourne with his knee, just sliding it right in between his arm and Ode. So just a couple punches from Ode Osbourne, nothing of note. You can't really generate any sort of force or momentum from this position. What we do see is a pretty nice knee up against the fence by Steve Erceg. I'm going to give that a significant strike. Another good knee from Steve Erceg. He has Ode lunged over. He's using that top pressure in his clinch up against the fence to break the posture of Ode Osbourne. It's a quick little knee. And honestly, I can't really see it too well. Maybe let me watch it. It actually, now that I look at that knee, it looks like it hits. Does it? I was going to say, it looks like it hits the arm of Steve Erceg. At this point, we're struggling to see because of the position of the camera, what the effectiveness of the strike. So, I'm gonna let that one slide. I'm gonna let that one slide. I can't tell if it's an effective strike. And right there, we have another little sequence up against the fence. A knee doesn't seem to land all that well. The angle is awkward. Erceg isn't able to turn his hips far enough over to generate any sort damage from that strike or any meaningful damage. And then he attempts a trip from the clinch as well. It is stuffed by Ode Osbourne. So right now we're still 2-1.
Türlü Erceg. Gövdeye bir diz.
So we got a decent knee by Steve Erceg. I'd say that is a significant strike by Steve Erceg. And Ode double underhooks, reverses the position. This is where you would take the effective grappling into consideration, but we'll come back to that later if the tallies are close enough. So now we have Ode Osbourne holding up Steve Erceg up against the fence. Some rabbit punches from Erceg. We don't pay attention to that much. It really doesn't do anything. We have a knee from Ode. And again, the angle is awkward. Like the angle that we had earlier with Steve Erceg, there's not much force that can be generated here. And it's literally the same position, just mirrored right there. So we see that knee. And I don't think it generates enough force to be taken seriously at all. So a bunch of tiny little punches that do nothing in this position. Fighting for control, the grappling exchange, and right there. So we have another strike on the break between Steve Erceg and Ode Osbourne, but it misses. It doesn't find home. Ode does a good job getting out of the way. Okay, so in this striking exchange, let's see what we got. A couple feints exchanged, and then we got a jab, and that misses. And then we got a straight, which also doesn't land, and a check hook from Ode Osbourne, but it lands with the side of the wrist. Let me look at this a bit closer. Jab, straight, and that misses. If it hits, it's a glancing blow. Then we have a strike. We could give that to Ode a significant strike. Although it's not the most cleanest or flushest of hits, it lands and it gets a reaction. And misses. Both strikes miss just barely, but they do not connect. Right there we have a leg kick and a hook exchange between the two fighters. In this position, the leg kick doesn't look like it does much, and that hook, I think, does it land? I don't think it lands. There was no stutter, no pause in the arc of Erceg's swing. So again here, awkward leg kick, out of position leg kick, and a missed hook. So we're not giving that to either fighter. So this one caught me. I thought that this one connected. Ode caught in a terrible position to defend, hands going low, thinking he's going to get hit with a leg kick. He starts moving his hands low, and then what happens? Erceg goes high. But Ode is so quick, he's so fast, he's able to just matrix his way out of danger. And that sound we hear when it connects is the sound of his hair getting hit by the kick. If that hit, that would have been a knockdown. That was a flush kick, especially because Ode Osbourne put himself in a position to eat that fucking kick, but he was quick enough to get away with it. So no strike land. That would have been enough to swing the round. That would have been the most significant strike so far, but it didn't land. So Ode Osbourne, feeling a little left out, decided to throw his own kick. His own head kick missed as well. Right here, we got a jab, glances off the forearm, and then we have a hook and what seems to be an uppercut, and it looks like it lands on the shoulder or the chest of Steve Erceg. Not really a significant strike. We got a pawing jab, and then the two misses. Steve Erceg just slides away. We got a teep kick. And we got that check hook. So teep kick looks like it is deflected by Steve Erceg. And after that, He arm traps the lead hand, and then he throws the two down the middle, and we can see that connects. Look at the way Ode Osbourne's head snaps back. It definitely connects, and that's it from that connection. That is a good strike by Steve Erceg.
Erceg.
We got a takedown attempt by Steve Erceg stuffed, and we got a knee.
İyi yukarı çekti burada Erceg'i. İyi savundu takedown denemesini.
So we got a low blow from Steve Erceg. I'm not going to count that. And you can hear the ref right here. Right there, Steve. Keep those up. Stay away from the groin. We're not going to count that strike. It was a low blow. In that little sequence, we have Ode Osbourne reversing the position and trying to exit out. Steve Erceg traps the lead arm and then throws a body kick. Now, funny enough, if Steve just went up to the head, that would have been a great fucking kick. It probably would have. It could have been a finishing sequence too. I believe in that sequence, I got to give it to Steve Erceg. And this is another good sequence as well. At first, I thought this was Ode all day. See, it looks like Ode got the better of that sequence. But if we look closely, lead arm trapped, Superman punch, and that too lands. It looks like it lands like on the neck, close just below the chin. That strike itself is pretty good. And then Ode returns with a check hook. But we also see the way his head moves. That's a fucking hook over the top by Erceg. So Erceg lands 2 punches to Ode's 1. And that's a good strike too. I will give them both points for that one. Erceg sits at 6. Ode sits at 3. We got a takedown attempt by Steve Erceg, stuffed by Ode, and it seems like they end the exchange, the sequence, with a teep or front kick to the body from Steve Erceg. It doesn't seem like that had any sort of effect on the sequence at all. I think it might have just been at the full extent of the kick, so we're not going to count that. Another teep kick from Erceg, and it looks like it lands. You can see the body react to that. A bit of some ripples onto the body, but I think that's still a light kick. And in this sequence right here, Steve Erceg, a nice hook over the top, just stopped the entire assault of Ode Osbourne. And that is a great shot. So that's a significant strike. So this is the last sequence, 12 seconds left on the clock. Miss, miss, miss, miss, miss. So nothing fucking lands in that entire sequence. Here, we'll go it slowly. So we got a jab by Ode. Nothing really behind it. Erceg shoots over the top with a hook, lunges in, and he finds himself out of position and falls. He slips. Now, after that, the two position themselves with a uppercut and a straight, and he misses. Ode misses those punches. And then Erceg circles out, and for the remainder of that round, no strikes are thrown between the two fighters. So, Steve Erceg landed more significant strikes. There were more strikes than this altogether, but Steve Erceg landed the more significant strikes in these exchanges. Now, if we go back and we add effective grappling points when Steve Erceg was reversed against the cage, see, these takedowns, they don't count unless you get the takedown. Holding someone against the fence doesn't give you points. It doesn't win you rounds. But getting dominant positions or effective grappling, like reversing position, will get you some points. So even if we gave him those 2 points, because he did twice, it would be at 5, and Erceg would still be at 7, just narrowly squeaking by, narrowly taking the round. All those tiny little punches, we don't need to count it. It's about significant strikes. That's what's important. But yeah, I think the judges got it right. I think Steve Erceg won the second round. That's what I'm saying. After doing this deep dive twice, I've come to the same conclusion twice, and I think Steve Erceg, he won this round. There's still an argument that can be made for Ode Osbourne. This entire review for me is subjective. I can totally see an argument for Ode Osbourne winning that round too. Like, for the strikes that landed, Ode Osbourne landed cleaner looking strikes. In terms of the amount of significant strikes, Steve Erceg trapping the lead hand and shooting that straight down the middle, he caught him with a really good check hook coming in as well towards the later end of the round. Right here. Boom. That's a good shot. So, yes, I think the judges got this one right. When I was watching the fight, I completely disagreed. I thought it was a robbery, but after further review, no, Asher Boy did win the second round. At least that's what I believe.